Less than 24 hours ago, the United States carried out one of the most dramatic military law enforcement hybrid operations in modern history. In an overnight mission named Absolute Resolve, U.S. forces launched more than 150 aircraft across the hemisphere, dismantled Venezuelan air defenses, inserted troops into Caracas, and captured Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Cilia Flores. Now, the world is asking two massive questions. How did this happen? And what legal authority did the United States claim to carry out the capture of a sitting national leader? In this video, we're going to slow everything down, separate politics from facts, and unpack the U.S. indictment against Nicolás Maduro. What he's accused of, what the indictment document actually says, and what it means moving forward. This document is from the Southern District of New York, and it charges the Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro, members of his inner circle, and a powerful gang leader with narco-terrorism, massive cocaine trafficking, and weapon offenses. My goal here is to tell you what you think about this indictment, or the recent events leading up to it, but just to simply break down this document and to show you line by line how to read an indictment like this, what the charges actually mean, and what the prosecutors are going to try to prove. One important thing to note is that an indictment is not a conviction. These are allegations. Under U.S. law, every defendant is presumed innocent until proven otherwise or until proven guilty in court. Let's start with the basics. At the top, here's what you see. United States District Court, Southern District of New York, and that tells you that this is the federal trial court where this case is being filed. The Southern District of New York is a powerful district that often handles big international cases, especially involving drugs, terrorism, and financial crime. Next, you're going to see sealed superseding indictment. Keywords here: indictment means a formal charging document approved by a grand jury. Superseding means this is not the first version of the case, meaning that earlier indictments existed and this one replaces or made some updates. Sealed means it was hidden from the public at first, often to avoid tipping off the defendants before arrest. When the court or prosecutors unseal it, the public finally sees what's inside. So, what you're looking at isn't a random PDF. It's the latest updated version of a long-running U.S. case against Maduro and others. So, who's being charged? Right below the caption, you see the list of the defendants. Nicolás Maduro Moros, Diosdado Cabello Rondon, a top political and military figure. Raymond Rodriguez Chasten, Cilia Adela Flores de Maduro, Maduro's wife and longtime political figure. Nicolás Ernesto Maduro Gura, Hector Rustin Ford Guerrero Flores, alleged leader of the gang Tren de Aragua. And by listing them together, the prosecutors are saying this is not just one person. They're saying it's about a network of political, military, family, and gang actors who, according to the indictment, work together. So the indictment is trying to tell a story. So first, they're saying that for over 25 years, Venezuelan leaders abused their positions and turned state institutions into tools to traffic cocaine. And that Maduro is at the forefront of this, allegedly using every office he held, from National Assembly member to foreign minister to president, to help move cocaine and to protect traffickers. And that his family, including his wife and his son, allegedly benefited, and that their corruption strengthened narco-terrorist groups and violent gangs. Here's one thing to remember though, this intro is not evidence, it's a narrative. It sets the stage and frames how prosecutors want the judge, jury, and public to see the rest of the document. The next big section defines the organizations prosecutors say work with the Venezuelan officials. So you see groups like FARC and successor groups, ELN, the Sinaloa Cartel, the Zestas, Tren de Aragua. The indictment describes each group as involved in major cocaine production or trafficking, involved in violence like kidnappings, killings, or bombings, and crucially designated as foreign terrorist organizations or otherwise tied to terrorism-related law. Why does this matter? Because one of the main charges here is narco-terrorism. Under U.S. law, that means you're not just selling drugs. The government is claiming you're using drug trafficking to support terrorist organizations with money, weapons, logistics, and protection. The indictment is telling the judge and jury that these are not random dealers, these are terrorist or cartel organizations, and we say the Venezuelan leadership partnered with them. Section 5, the overt acts, and we covered this before, basically meaning concrete examples of the actions that were taken. One of the most educational parts of this document is a section called overt acts, and think of overt acts as sample episodes from a long series. Prosecutors don't list every single thing they think happened, but they pick examples meant to show you a pattern. And here are a few examples the indictment gives in plain language. A foreign minister allegedly selling Venezuelan diplomatic passports to known traffickers and using diplomatic flights to move drug money between Mexico and Venezuela. A cocaine load leaving Venezuelan airport, the same airport used by the president, and getting seized in Mexico. Afterward, bribes were allegedly paid to protect the insiders who helped. Maduro and his wife allegedly using state-sponsored gangs known as colectivos to move cocaine that had been seized by law enforcement, and ordering violent acts like kidnappings and murders against people who owed them drug money. Maduro's son allegedly arriving on a plane and that plane being loaded with taped packages understood to be drugs, with the suggestion that the plane could fly wherever it wanted, including the United States. Trinidad leader Nino Guerrero allegedly offering protection on the Venezuelan coast for cocaine shipments and claiming control over beaches and routes. Now, whether all of this is true is for a court to decide. But from a learning perspective, what you see here is how prosecutors connect the high-level story, narco-state, cartel of the Suns, narco-terrorism, to actual date range, location, and behavior details. Meetings, planes, bribe payments, specific loads, and weapons. Now, let's break the actual charges down, or counts. Count 1, narco-terrorism conspiracy. This count focuses on Maduro, Cabello, and Rodriguez Chacin. It says they conspired to distribute cocaine, knowing and intending that value from that cocaine would go to terrorist organizations. In U.S. law terms, they're accused of using drug trafficking as a way to support or fund terrorism and to attack U.S. interests by flooding the U.S. with cocaine. Count 2, cocaine importation conspiracy. Here, all the 6 defendants are charged. This count says they manufactured, moved, and distributed cocaine outside the United States, intending or knowing that it would be imported into the U.S. or into waters near the U.S., including on U.S. registered aircraft and via sea routes. The quantity listed is 5 kilograms or more, but in reality, the narrative talks about tons of cocaine over many years. Count 3, possession of machine guns and destructive devices. This count connects guns and explosives to the drug trafficking. It says the defendants used, carried, and possessed machine guns, destructive devices, machine guns being weapons that fire automatically with a single pull of the trigger, and destructive devices, which can include things like grenades or certain explosives. And they allegedly did this during and in relation to the drug crimes in counts 1 and count 2. Under U.S. law, that combination, drugs plus certain kinds of weapons, triggers very heavy penalties. Count 4, conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. So count 4 charges them with agreeing to having those machine guns and destructive devices connected to the drug trafficking. Think of count 3 as you actually use and possess these weapons during the drug crimes, and count 4 as you agreed and planned to arm yourselves this way as a part of the operation. Section 7. Forfeiture and what happens to the money. At the end, the indictment talks about forfeiture. Forfeiture is the process where if someone is convicted, the government tries to take the money and property that came from the crime and property that was used to commit or facilitate the crime, like planes, boats, or even weapons. And the exact assets can be found. Maybe they're hidden, sold, moved, or mixed with other funds. The government can go after substitute assets of equal value. So this case isn't just about prison time. It's also about seizing wealth, property, and tools that prosecutors say were built on cocaine and corruption. So what does this indictment actually tell us? Is that the U.S. is accusing Nicolás Maduro and his circle of turning a sovereign state into what many call a narco state, where political power, military power, and organized crime are deeply intertwined. Legally, this case is built on 4 pillars: narco-terrorism, cocaine trafficking to the U.S., weapons linked to the drug trade, and forfeiture of assets tied to these crimes. Factually, the indictment uses a mix of long-term patterns of behavior, specific episodes, flights, shipments, meetings, money, and weapons. And finally, it's worth repeating, these allegations are not proof. The defendants have the right to counsel, to challenge evidence, to cross-examine witnesses, and to put on a defense. Whether the story is accepted as true will ultimately be decided in the courtroom and not a PDF or a YouTube video. Whether you agree with the recent events or not, that is up to you to decide. I'm Nate Andre, and this is Investinate, and this was a step-by-step look on how to read a real indictment document. If you enjoyed this or learned something, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this.